Hey brother! And Batman vs Superman comes out soon and I am pretty pumped for it. And I can't wait to see how the Justice League comes together. But perhaps more interesting than the dawn of the heroes is the dawn of the villains. Or as will be the case in today's video, the dawn of the place all of the villains are sent in Batman. Because as insane as many of the Batman villains are, none are perhaps as crazy as the real-life monster that once roamed the halls of the real-life Arkham Asylum. Hey, brother! Quick disclaimer, this video will contain some graphic description. I'll have a little annotation if that sort of thing makes you uncomfortable that you can click and it'll just skip past that though, but just be aware. Yes, Arkham Asylum was a real place. Well, sort of. And while it wasn't an ultra-max prison for the criminally insane, you could probably get away with the argument that the patients there were the prisoners of the criminally insane. But it didn't start that way, and it wasn't actually called Arkham Asylum. See, back in 1874, treating people with mental illness was not exactly a super humane practice. Especially in Danvers, Massachusetts, where mentally ill people were literally auctioned off to the community to either do work or be cared for by the purchaser. But cared for is a lenient term, as this would often result in people being caged or lashed or beaten or worse. But that's if you were purchased. If not, then the town would just release you into the wild, so to speak, where you would have to fend for yourself and probably couldn't because of your condition. Thankfully, a woman named Dorothy Dix recognized the sheer awfulness of what was happening and started rallying for the government to step in and claim responsibility and do something to care for these people. And the end result was Danvers State Mental Hospital. But I'm not sure if I should call it a hospital or a castle. I mean, look at this thing. When's the last time you saw a hospital that looked like this? It is so ornate. It consisted of 17 separate buildings. Their goal was to cure people, not just hide them away from society. They could house up to 500 patients at once and initially had pretty good success. They encouraged exercise, had relaxing gardens, wide hallways, big rooms. Indeed, they were seen as a leader in humane treatment. They expanded to over 40 buildings, which are all connected by a series of subterranean tunnels. They had auditoriums and gymnasiums, and heck, they even grew their own food for the kitchens on site. Who does that? But with so much space and success, they began attracting a lot of patients, many of whom did not belong there. People who were just drug abusers or criminals that society wanted to hide away. Remember, the max number of patients they could hold was 500, so when that number climbed to over 2,300, quality of care started to drop off a lot. They were severely understaffed. It's just a means of controlling the patients. They began subjecting them to things like shock therapy, hydrotherapy, straitjackets. Rooms became filthy and untended, and screams could be heard emanating from the building at all hours of the day. Things were beginning to look desperate, and desperate times call for desperate measures. So when Dr. Walter Jackson Freeman II showed up and had such a solution, a fix, a way to control the population, it's easy to see why they jumped at this opportunity and didn't really ask a lot of questions. And alas, we meet our monster. Dr. Freeman was the developer and practicer of a technique known as the transorbital lobotomy. And a lobotomy, if you don't know, is the act of severing the frontal lobe of the brain from the rest of the brain. Warning, this is the part with the graphic description, so if that sort of stuff makes you uncomfortable, you can just click right here to skip past it. Okay, early 1900s medicine, not super advanced, so doing something like a lobotomy involved drilling into someone's head, which was super dangerous and very time-consuming. Plus, since these procedures were being done at psychiatric hospitals, they didn't normally have like surgical operating rooms or high budgets, so Dr. Freeman developed a new way to do it, called the transorbital lobotomy. This kind of lobotomy involved using, wait for it, an ice pick. And I'm not kidding when I say the first ice pick he used was literally from his kitchen drawer. He would use the ice pick to go behind your eye, hammer through a little piece of skull to get to your brain, and then basically stir. Plus, bonus, there was no anesthesia, so you were awake for all of this. I know, it sounds awful, but hey, he did perform over 3,400 of these things, so it must have been working to some degree. Right? Broadly speaking, working would just mean a reduction of symptoms of mental illness. So let's have a look at the results because they are indeed mixed. Mixed all the way from death, brain damage, eventual suicide, disabling impairments, reduced self-control, reduced self-awareness. To be fair, some people were actually able to return to work. But even if you had the desired outcome, it often also came at the cost of the person's intellect and personality. But who needs those? But at least it was only in the one hospital, right? What? He traveled around the country and taught people how to do this, even though he had no surgical training? I swear, this guy is one bad, corny, pun-named machine away from being like a legit evil doctor. He called his car the Lobotomobile. Are you kidding me? It is easy to see after you've had a doctor like that how public support for the hospital could just plummet, and continue to do so long after he stopped working there, losing building after building until finally closing in 1992. Also easy to see how this hospital, along with Dr. Freeman, basically inspired the entire insane asylum section of the horror genre. Because once upon a time, it wasn't thought of as a creepy place, but now it's always that one haunted house at Halloween that you always avoid. What? It's in an abandoned mental asylum? No, that's cool. I'm good. I'm just gonna stay at home. And one of the people who pioneered this whole new creepy side to the insane asylum was celebrated horror writer H.P. Lovecraft. If you've never read any of H.P. Lovecraft, I will leave a link down in the description where you can go basically read all of his short stories, but the one I think you'll be most interested in is the one called The Thing on the Doorstep. It's actually considered one of his worst stories, but it introduces Arkham Sanatorium, which he directly based on the Danvers Mental State Hospital. And it is the sanatorium directly being referenced by Batman's Arkham Asylum. Truly the perfect place to house the criminally insane people of the Batman world. Whew, that's a little bit darker episode than normal, but if this was interesting to you and you want to learn more about the Danvers State Hospital, I will link to all of my sources down below. It's pretty interesting, but the easiest thing you could do is go listen to the podcast Lore. It's episode 6. It's called Echoes. The host, Aaron Mankey, does an amazing job. He goes into way more coverage of this place than I just did. I highly recommend you go check it out. I will leave a link to that down in the description as well. And to end on a lighter note, Ben, my question for you and everybody else is, are you on Team Batman or Team Superman? Let me know down in the towel section below, and I will see you in another life, brother.
These socks are amazing!
Guys, thanks for watching. As always, please leave a like on this video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Batman videos. You can check out my old Batman Google autofill video right here, or Ben's Fast Facts about the latest Batman movies right here. See you next time.